Chapter 61. Killing Another Great Strength Cultivator, 11th of June. A day later, news of what was happening finally spread. People from the capital were coming to attend the entrance examinations held in Nenuan. Some of them were already here, waiting for the examinations to start. Voices of criticism spread alongside the news. The capital is reducing the intake of local students. Marquis Zia only cares about money and disregards the well-being of Nanyuan. He is even considering selling Nanyuan to Great Ming for money. Nanyuan has been abandoned by Great Zia. All sorts of rumors flew about. Some were spread by the commoners, and some were spread by those harboring evil intents. The mayor's office reacted immediately. The Windcatcher department was mobilized while Nanyuan Secondary School provided their students with an explanation of what was happening. Those from the capital would be taking the examinations using unique slots. Nanyuan's original slots would remain untouched. They would not encroach upon Nanyuan's benefits. With that, public opinion started changing. Naturally, not everyone believed the explanation. But at the very least, things were calming down as a majority of the population still believed the mayor's office. He had visited several times before with Liu Wenyan. This time, he was here alone. Things were busy in the department, and Suyu did not trouble anyone. He was crouched at a corner beside a Windcatcher officer who was on a smoke break. "Uncle Li, have you found any cult members?" "We're looking into it." The middle-aged man was surnamed Lai. He was an old officer in the department. As a sixth-stage great strength cultivator, he was only a low-rank officer. Despite his wheat cultivation, he had been in the department for many years, so he had a strong network in it. While smoking, he smiled and said, "Little Su, out of all Nenuan students, you're the best." He raised his thumb. "Before even graduating, you're already out here hunting cult members. No other student has done so before, however." The middle-aged man lowered his voice. "Your teacher isn't here this time. It is too dangerous for you to join us alone. I'll be frank. Without your teacher around, we might not be able to help you in time if you encounter danger." Suyu nodded like an obedient boy before saying, "Uncle Li, I won't make trouble for you guys. I'll just wait far away from the main unit. You guys will be the ones doing the heavy lifting. If I can get one seriously injured escaped cult member to complete the task my instructor gave me, I'll be happy." The middle-aged man smiled. "Don't worry. If there's a chance, we'll release a seriously injured guy from our encirclement. We're willing to show Instructor Liu this much respect. Even the chief won't disregard the instructor. Furthermore, we all know your old man. Back then, he would occasionally help us with the cult members. He is as good as an external agent of the Windcatcher department." Suyu smiled and hurriedly voiced his gratitude. In truth, his father wasn't the type to enjoy meddling in the affairs of others, but when it comes to killing cult members, anyone capable of combat in Nenuan would willingly help. As a ninth-stage great strength cultivator, Su Long could be considered a decent expert in Nanyuan. While the two were talking, a team leader shouted, "Northern team, gather up!" At that command, old Li flicked his cigarette away and rushed toward the main hall. Suyu also hurriedly followed the older man. Instead of entering the formation of the team, he stood behind them silently. The team leader glanced at him without commenting. He addressed the assembled group. "Traces of the Myriad race cult have been discovered at the outskirts. This time there aren't a lot of them. Only a small number of them are there trying to incite the locals. According to what we know, there are at least three of them. Their strength is unknown, but considering their task, we doubt they will be strong. The Northern team will be in charge of this mission. You have 3 minutes to get ready and set off." "All right," everyone answered. This team was composed of 30 Windcatcher officers. That wasn't a small team. The team leader was a 9th-stage great strength cultivator. There were also several officers at the 7th-stage great strength realm and above. The rest of them were no weaker than the 4th-stage great strength realm. As the team members dispersed to make their preparations, the team leader walked up to Suyu and solemnly said, "The chief has a different mission, so he won't be with us. Your instructor is not with us today as well, Suyu. You've joined several of our missions before. You know how dangerous things can get. I know your instructor is a Skysoar cultivator. I also have a good relationship with your father. But during the duration of this mission, nobody will be able to focus on taking care of you. This is an active mission. It's not a game. Any carelessness can result in death. Here, people are constantly dying in the line of duty. You can come with us, but remember to not get in our way. When encountering danger, you can run. You can ask for help. But we might not be able to help. Your life is valuable, but the lives of others are just as valuable. We won't jeopardize the mission for your sake. The team leader was stern. You can choose to leave. If not, you will have to bear with the consequences that might arise from your choice. As a source opening cultivator, Su Yu was too weak. Although he had joined them on other missions before, he had done so in the presence of Liu Wenyan and the chief of the department. There was practically no danger to him with those two around. It was different this time. He was alone. He was alone. Don't worry, team leader Liu. My father is a military man, while I can be considered a reserve soldier. I won't bring trouble to you guys. Team leader Liu nodded. His expression eased up as he reminded, be careful. I heard that you're a cultural researcher and you have some special tricks. But remember to not act rashly. I understand, Su Yu answered with a helpless smile. Cultural researcher? He was far from one. The people of Nenyuan still knew too little about cultural researchers. Nobody below the Skysaw realm could be truly considered a cultural researcher. 3 minutes later, the fully armed team was gathered yet again. Outside the building, 2 trucks were waiting. The officers boarded the trucks with Su Yu in their midst. In the truck, everyone was silently checking over their equipment and supplies. Su Yu did the same. A middle-tier yellow-grade saber and 4 drops of iron-winged bird blood essence. He had purchased 3 drops from the secondary school earlier with 3 merit points. He only had 10 merit points remaining. It was always good to be prepared lest he encountered a dangerous situation that required more than a drop of blood essence. He also made sure to keep the 4 drops separately in case all of them were lost or damaged together. One of them was kept in a capsule that he hid in his mouth. In an emergency, he could directly swallow it. After several days of practice with the lightning source blade, Su Yu had finally achieved basic mastery with great difficulty. He was already able to use the first move, albeit at a slow speed. The lightning source blade required a large amount of source chi to activate. Since Su Yu still couldn't utilize external source chi, he also brought a drop of source chi liquid with him. His final drop was left at home. There was no need for him to take all of them with him. A single drop would be enough for the mission. 3 drops of blood essence and 1 drop of source chi liquid are worth around $200,000. Su Yu sighed. Including his saber, he had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars preparing for this mission. If he returned empty-handed, it would be awful. The best result would be to kill a great strength cult member and earn some merit points without using any of his expensive trump cards. If he was forced to use his trump card, such as a drop of blood essence for example, he would need to kill at least 1 great strength cultivator to make up for the loss. This was his first time joining a mission like this alone. Thus, he was both excited and nervous. If he was careless this time, there would be nobody to save his skin. Old Li was seated beside him. After he was done inspecting his equipment, he looked at Su Yu. When he noticed Su Yu's taut muscles, he smiled and said, "Relax a bit. Don't be too nervous. When we're there, we will leave the truck and travel on foot. You might not even be able to keep up with us." Su Yu nodded. He seriously said, "I understand. I will be waiting further away from the team. Be very careful. If the escaped enemy is in a good condition, pretend you see nothing even if you can actually see them. It doesn't matter if they manage to escape. It's only a matter of time before we hunt them down. Don't throw your life away here." "Thank you, Uncle Li." The others in the truck heard their conversation as well. One of them, a young man who looked only slightly older than Su Yu, laughed and said, "I took part in my first mission 5 years ago. I was also very nervous then, but eventually I got used to it. Su Yu, just do what you think is the best. Don't be afraid." "Thank you, Big Brother Chen." Big Brother Chen was quite young. He wasn't even 30. In the Windcatcher department, he was basically a youngster. In the mood to chat more, he smiled and asked, "Su Yu, you are very talented in physical cultivation as well. Have you never considered joining a war academy?" My instructor is a cultural researcher." Su Yu smiled. "Since he wants me to enter a cultural research academy, I can only do so. I've only learned that recently. Big Brother Chen lamented. Graduates of the Windcatcher Academy have a hard time finding a job at the capital unless one is a top genius. People like us can only return home and look for a job locally. But the Cultural Research Academy is different. Upon graduation, one will be a cultural researcher all factions will fight for. He was in a melancholic mood. At the Windcatcher Academy, one could graduate at middle stage great strength realm. But at the Cultural Researcher Academy, one could only graduate upon reaching the Skysoar realm. That alone showed the great gap between the two academies. Big Brother Chen did not wallow in melancholy as he smiled and said, "Suyu, you will understand how difficult it is to graduate after entering the academy. Each year, less than 50 students manage to graduate while they have a yearly intake of nearly 2,000 students. Only about 2.5% of the students could graduate. There are also many old students in the academy. Very few of them can graduate within 10 years. So few." Suyu was first astonished, but he nodded in understanding shortly after. That was understandable. Since only those at the Skysoar realm could graduate, the academy was basically producing 50 Skysoar cultivators per year. That was actually not a small number. That was basically the equivalent of 50 Nanyuan mayors per year. Some of the people in the truck weren't aware about all that as well. One of them was free after he was done inspecting his equipment and joined the conversation. "It's so hard to graduate there. A lot of the older Windcatcher officers were actually retired or transferred soldiers. The Windcatcher Academy had not been established for long. Thus, most of their graduates were still quite young. Some of the older officers in the team were people who had never been to the capital." Big Brother Chen nodded. "It's very difficult. Of course, they have a very different standard when graduating their students. Instructor Liu, for example, can be considered a fresh graduate as well, and he is not the first student to graduate at such an old age." The expressions of everyone in the truck turned odd. Fresh graduate? That old man? Forget it. The world of those from the capital was something they wouldn't be able to understand. As far as they were concerned, Instructor Liu was basically equal in status with the mayor. But it turned out that he was just a fresh graduate of the Great Zia Cultural Research Academy. As they conversed, they arrived at their destination. Instead of going straight to the area where the enemies were last sighted, they stopped a kilometer away. After everyone left the trucks, the team leader did not say anything. With a wave of his hand, the team split into two and advanced toward their target from two separate directions. Chapter 62. Killing another great strength cultivator, Suyu did not join the others. Instead, he carefully followed about 300 meters behind the two groups. He was not planning to become the vanguard of this mission. Instead, he was going to wait further away and see if there was an opportunity for him to get a kill. Nobody knew how many enemies they were going to face. The report claimed that there were 3 enemies, but these experienced officers knew that the information they received might not necessarily be accurate. More enemies might be hidden nearby. In fact, each year, there would be officers dying from inaccurate intelligence. That was not something they could avoid. And even if there were really only 3 enemies, if one of them was an infinite strength, or even a Skysoar cultivator, things would turn troublesome as well. They might still stand a chance against an infinite strength cultivator, but if there was a Skysoar cultivator, the officers could only blame their bad luck for the encounter. Finally, an ordinary-looking house appeared not far ahead. The houses in this neighborhood shared similar designs. Near the house was a small field with some crops grown on it. The house's location granted its inhabitants a clear view of its surroundings. This was the favorite kind of hideout for the cult members, as they could easily discover their enemies and flee before being surrounded. This wasn't the first time the Windcatcher officers were facing the cult. They had plenty of experience and were good at concealment. In fact, even Suyu would not be able to notice them if he hadn't been following behind them from the get-go. All 30 of them were crawling on the ground as they advanced. Even Suyu was staying low, hiding inside a small hole on the ground. The team leader carefully looked back. When he saw that Suyu wasn't visible anywhere, he breathed out in relief. He was afraid that Suyu would be careless and expose himself. That could potentially end up exposing them as well. When he was reminding Suyu earlier, he had been afraid that the kid would be disobedient, but it seemed like that was not the case. As the son of a soldier like Suyu did not have the arrogance that was almost always present in those from the capital. Tightening his grip on the handle of his saber, Su Yu breathed softly to calm the slight excitement he was feeling. Before long, he was fully calm. This wasn't his first rodeo. He had killed several great strength cultivators before. At that point, the Windcatcher officers were roughly 100 meters away from the distant house. They could no longer conceal themselves effectively, so the team leader raised his hand. With that signal, everyone stood up. Without uttering a single word, all 30 of them charged the small house. "Windcatcher Department!" A shout rang out. Evidently, someone was keeping watch in the house. That person had only noticed the intruders now, and with one look, he realized who the intruders were. The Windcatcher Department. "Run!" With a shout, 6 individuals rushed out of the house. There were more than 3, the cult members scattered in different directions, not bothering to work together. The lucky would escape, while the unlucky ones would end up captured by the Windcatcher Department. That had always been the cult's strategy of survival. When encountering opponents they couldn't beat, they would run without hesitation. There was no teamwork to speak of. Luck would decide if one could escape or not. This strategy was surprisingly effective, as the Windcatcher Department rarely split their people. After all, without their group formation, their combat strength wasn't anything special, and could easily end up defeated by the cult members instead. Thus, the 30 officers did not spread too far apart. They could only surround the house from 3 directions. That allowed the additional cult members to escape. Unsurprisingly, the officers did not pursue all the cult members. Instead, they split into 3 groups of 10. 2 of them went after the escaping cult members, while the last group was led by the team leader toward the house. After kicking the door open, they rushed inside. Su Yu was hiding hundreds of meters away, granting him a clear view of the entire encounter. Even observing how these officers worked was a learning process for him. If it was him leading the team, he would have probably ended up chasing after the escaping cult members, forgetting that there might be more enemies hidden in the house. That's the value of experience. Su Yu was not disheartened. With more experience, he would be able to make better calls as well. The 2 pursuing groups were able to catch up to their targets. Soon, they started fighting. Sounds of weapons clashing filled the air. These officers weren't too strong, but they had excellent teamwork. Su Yu estimated that the surrounded cult member he was looking at was at least a 6th stage great strength cultivator. However, he was instantly killed by the group of officers. The group of 10 officers didn't even have a 7th stage great strength cultivator among them. Su Yu only gave them one look before ignoring them. He started sweeping his gaze across the area. 6 enemies had rushed out of the house earlier. 2 had been instantly killed. The 2 groups continued their pursuit, but some cult members had still managed to escape. Those fellows were quite fast. In the blink of an eye, they had all vanished. This is actually a bad hiding spot for the cult. The area is too flat. They can easily detect intruders, but escaping is difficult as well. They should choose a terrain that is more beneficial for escaping. Su Yu continued learning what he could. The valuable experience he gained here might come handy in the future. My position is not very good either. Hiding behind the Windcatcher officers, the enemies might not dare to escape in this direction. Even if they have the courage to do so, they might not be able to get through the officers. Then again, I'm only here to try my luck. It is always better to be careful. As he was thinking, a shout rang out in the house. Next, several figures rushed out. Sure enough, there were more enemies inside. The 2 groups of officers were already quite far away, so nobody was there to stop the escaping cult members. Su Yu could see one of them running in his direction. He instantly focused on that cult member. It was time for him to join the fight. This speed is similar to the fellow I fought before. He must be a 6th stage great strength cultivator. Behind the cult member, the Windcatcher team leader separated from his group and ran over while shouting, "Stop running and surrender your weapons. There has been a change of policy. The higher-ups have decided that the Myriad race cult is not that bad after all. Any captured cult members can be deployed to the front line to battle for humanity instead of being executed." Su Yu was doubtful, but he immediately understood. The team leader was trying to reduce the cult members' will to fight. No such order had been given. The policy had always been to execute every cult member found. Every cult member knew that there was no surviving being captured by Great Zia. Thus, they would generally struggle until the end. That would only make the battle more difficult. Suyu wondered if this cult member would buy the lie. Clearly, the cult member was not fooled. Or maybe he was still hopeful that he could escape. He continued running. 200 meters, 100 meters. The enemy was nearer and nearer to Suyu, but he seemed to be running toward a slightly different direction. Still on the ground, Suyu silently crawled over to the direction the cult member was heading toward. Before long, the enemy was dozens of meters away from him. Suyu stood up and raised his saber. Gathering his source chi, his blade shone with a dim glow. He then roared, "Stop!" It did not seem like he would be able to ambush this enemy. Thus, he could only face the enemy directly. A source opening cultivator. The cult member was stunned. A source opening cultivator, and this person was not wearing the Windcatcher Department's uniform either. Was this a civilian? A mere source opening cultivator dared to get in his way. Was this person crazy? Don't even dream of escaping, Suyu continued shouting. By stopping you, I'll be awarded merit points. That will give me more marks during the entrance exam. Courting death. The cult member did not waste any breath. He raised his blade and swung it at Suyu. The two approached each other rapidly. Suddenly, Suyu's eyes widened. Chief. The cult member blanked out slightly. Someone new had suddenly appeared. Standing beside the source-opening cultivator was a middle-aged man. That was the Windcatcher Department's chief, Zhenghua. Shit. The cult member's face fell. The infinite strength realm Zhenghua was here as well. He turned around without any hesitation. At the same time, Suyu prepared his lightning source blade and swung his blade out. The cult member was still in the middle of changing directions when he suddenly heard the sound of a blade being swung. As Suyu was attacking with all his strength, he could no longer maintain the illusion. The cult member recovered his clarity of mind, but it was too late. Fake. That thought had barely surfaced in his mind when the saber struck him like a bolt of lightning. Boom! A head dropped onto the ground. A few moments later, the body collapsed as well, dying to the ground red with blood. Suyu was pale. As he pulled his blade back, he looked around carefully, afraid that a new enemy would suddenly appear. He was nibbling on the capsule of blood essence hidden in his mouth, ready to use it if necessary. The next moment, the squad leader arrived. Looking at Suyu, he nodded before saying in astonishment, "Not bad. There is no hesitation behind your blade." The squad leader did not waste any time and left immediately after. The battle was not over. Suyu heaved a long breath of relief. He had accomplished his goal. It had been accomplished much faster and easier than he had imagined. He had killed the opponent with one hit. Since he had exhausted all his source chi, he did not dare to wait around. He hurriedly swallowed a drop of source chi liquid to replenish his source chi. There goes 100,000. I wonder if I'm making a loss or a profit here. He smiled helplessly. Killing a middle-stage great strength cultivator would grant him 2 merit points. After using a drop of source chi liquid, would this still be a profit for him? Then again, the source chi liquid could still help with his cultivation, and it would stay active for a while, so it wasn't exactly a complete waste. Chapter 63, Comrade 1. After exhausting a large amount of source chi, using the lightning source blade, Suyu was resting to recover. Meanwhile, fights were breaking out all around him. The battles weren't too intense as the cult members were more focused on running. They also didn't have that many people. Before long, one cult member after another was taken down. The sounds of battle within the house were also slowing down. Team leader Liu had returned to the house to help with the fight inside. With a 9th stage great strength cultivator like him there, regular great strength cultivators wouldn't be able to pose much threat. Suyu was satisfied with killing one middle-stage great strength cult member. If he ignored his expenses, he had actually earned 2 merit points from that kill. This time, he had killed the enemy alone. Of course, as a tag-along, the spoils of war did not belong to him. Instead, they belonged to the Windcatcher Department. All the spoils of war would be submitted to the department before being distributed equally among the participants. Suyu would naturally not receive anything since he was an actual member of the department. That was fair, as just by joining this mission, he was taking the merit points that could be theirs. Without the department, he wouldn't have been able to kill the cult member. Suyu looked around. His surroundings were getting empty. The Windcatcher officers were starting to gather around the house to encircle and defeat the last remaining cult members. Su Yu was unclear as to how many cult members there were in total, but from what he had seen so far, there were more than 10 of them. With that number, this hideout could be considered a medium-sized hideout. Medium-sized hideout. Su Yu trembled as he realized something. With more than 10 cult members, a hideout would be classified as a medium-sized hideout. Just as that thought crossed his mind, Team Leader Lu's voice rang out in the house. "Watch out! There's a ringleader!" "Ah!" A scream rang out, but it was quickly interrupted. Then, Team Leader Lu's furious roar sounded. The walls of the house started crumbling. Su Yu was alarmed and hurriedly looked in the direction of the house. He saw that Team Leader Lu was in an intense battle against a middle-aged man who looked like he was suffering from a lung disease. Team Leader Liu fought with a military-issue saber, while his opponent used a long staff. As they fought, source chi erupted non-stop around them, causing the walls around them to collapse one after another. A Windcatcher officer had collapsed onto the ground, while the others were trying to form an encirclement around the cult member. Little Chen. When Su Yu heard that scream, he shivered. Little Chen? Big Brother Chen? Big Brother Chen? Was the person who had just collapsed Big Brother Chen? That was the person who was still chatting with him not long ago in the truck. Group 2, enter your formation. While fighting, Team Leader Liu shouted, "Brothers, we found the ringleader. If we beat him, we will earn a lot of merit points." With his command, the group of 10 behind him advanced. Each of them took out an iron chain connected to some axe-like weapon. Team Leader Lu hurriedly retreated, and whistling sounds rang out as the 10 iron chains were tossed forward by the group of 10. The cult member might look diseased and weak, but he was showing impressive strength. With a roar, he swept his staff forth and struck the 10 chains, creating numerous sparks in the air. One of the chains instantly snapped. The other chains were sent flying everywhere. "Group 1s!" Team Leader Lu roared. The first group that was already waiting to the side did not hesitate and stabbed at the cult member with the large tridents in their hands. With 10 attacks coming from multiple directions, the cult member, who still wasn't a Skysoar cultivator, could only roar furiously and swung his staff. Numerous sparks appeared as his staff collided against the tridents. The final group was spread around them. There was no need for Team Leader Liu to give them any order as they hurriedly tossed out a massive net. "You guys are only good for these cheap tricks," the cult member roared furiously and stomped his feet before lunging at a Windcatcher officer who was standing in his way. The officers rotated around the cult member while keeping the encirclement tight, not leaving a single opening for him to escape. With a net on him, multiple iron chains wrapped around him, and tridents that were constantly getting in his way, the cult member became more and more furious. At that point, Team Leader Liu had withdrawn from the encirclement. He was looking on coldly and waited outside the circle. The moment the cult member broke free, he would work with his team members and force the cult member back inside. Infinite Strength Realm. Su Yu finally realized that this enemy was an infinite strength cultivator. Otherwise, with Team Leader Liu's strength as a 9th stage great strength cultivator, he would not need to work with so many people to deal with one opponent. There were also several 7th stage great strength cultivators helping him. If even so many people were taking this long to deal with this cult member, it was clear how strong this cult member was. Boom! Surrounded by a bunch of cultivators weaker than him, the cult member furiously swung his staff, breaking a trident into pieces. The officer wielding the trident was standing several meters away. Even so far away, the force of the impact was enough to rupture his arms and cause streams of blood to flow out of his arms. At the same time, an iron chain was tossed toward the cult member. The axe at the end of the chain struck the cult member, leaving a deep wound on his thigh. "Great strength killing infinite strength!" At that moment, Su Yu suddenly understood why his father had said that on the battlefield, great strength cultivators could kill infinite strength cultivators. Right before his eyes, 30 great strength cultivators from the Windcatcher department of a small city were doing precisely that, encircling an infinite strength cultivator and slowly tiring the enemy out. The Windcatcher department was considered an elite department in Nanyuan, but in the Alhaven battlefield, they weren't even qualified to be a part of the main army. And yet these very people were showing to Su Yu that cultivation level wasn't everything. A single pair of hands would still have a hard time contending against multiple pairs of hands. When encountering a well-structured team of combatants, even someone strong might end up defeated. "Trying to tire me out. Dream on," the cult member roared. "If I go all out, some of you will die as well." "Liu Pingshan, let me go, and I'll leave Nanyuan. This will be good for both of us. I still have other hideouts in Nanyuan with 300 gold coins hidden in them. You can have that as your spoils of war." "Liu Pingshan, Nanyuan is a small city. Do you really want to throw away an entire team of windcatcher officers?" Nanyuan wasn't a powerful city, so it did not have that many windcatcher teams. If an infinite strength cultivator decided to go all out, even if the team could avoid being wiped out, they would still suffer disastrous losses. Team leader Liu ignored the offer. The moment one became a windcatcher officer, one had accepted the fact that death might come at any time. He had not expected to meet an infinite strength enemy today. This was a middle-stage infinite strength cultivator. No, that did not seem to be the case. This was only a hideout with about a dozen members. A hideout like this should not have anyone stronger than the 9th stage great strength realm. It was quite surprising that an infinite strength cultivator was here. Maybe this is a fresh, infinite strength cultivator that has yet to be transferred to a different hideout. There were various positions within the Myriad race cult. Someone at the infinite strength realm should not be leading a weak group like this. Thus, it was reasonable to assume that this enemy had just broken through recently. That much was obvious from the fact that the cult member had not been able to immediately suppress him during their fight earlier. "Die! Die!" Team leader Liu ignored the cult member and continued working together with his team to tire the opponent out. This person wouldn't be able to escape. "Liu Pingshan, do you really want this? Both of us will suffer if you keep pushing." The cult member swung his staff again, causing a trident wielder to fly away while spitting blood. The arms of that person were broken by the impact, so he could no longer participate in the battle. Someone else instantly stepped in to plug the opening left by the incapacitated officer. By that point, a hole had been torn by the cult member on the net they had dropped on him. However, he was already suffering from numerous wounds. Further away from the fight, Suyu was watching nervously. After a while, he started hesitating. This enemy was too strong. Even a 7th stage great strength officer had his arms broken with one hit by the enemy. If this continued, that cult member's words would come true. He might perish, but the windcatcher department would suffer disastrous losses as well. Clenching his teeth, Suyu stopped hesitating and rushed toward the fight. Team leader Liu saw Suyu's approach, but he did not say anything. This was Suyu's choice. If he ended up dying here, nobody could do anything. After all, even the team leader himself could not guarantee that he would survive. The enemy was most certainly going to perish. But this northern team would probably suffer gravely as well. Team leader Liu, scram! Liu Pingshan shouted as he glared at Suyu. If Suyu ended up getting in their way during an active mission, nobody would object even if he killed Suyu himself. The moment a battle started, this place was already a battlefield. The windcatcher department might be staying behind the front line, but they had their own battlefields as well. Suyu trembled when he saw team leader Liu's murderous eyes. This was not a regular government official. He was a true experienced killer. "Team leader, I can provide interruptions," Suyu spoke softly. As the sounds of weapons clashing echoed around him, he hurriedly continued. "I am a reserve cultural researcher. I can create illusions to distract him for a split second. Will that be enough for you to kill him, huh?" Team leader Liu was on the verge of kicking Suyu away when he stopped. Maybe 1 second. Suyu was unsure. He had never tried it against an enemy of this level before. Team leader Liu gazed at the enemy and paused for about 3 seconds. Then, he solemnly said, "I'll leave an opening for him to escape. You will distract him. Suyu military orders are absolute. I hereby order you to keep him distracted for at least 1 second. If you fail, I'll die. If you succeed, he will die, and no more of us will die." Team leader Liu was able to rapidly draw up a plan. He was going to allow that man to break free before letting Suyu distract that man with illusions. He would then attack and kill. If he failed, He would be killed after getting within the enemy's range. Even so, he would still be able to deal the enemy a serious injury before dying. This was a gamble. A gamble he did not hesitate to take. Even if the gamble ended up killing him, he would still be able to leave the enemy with a serious injury. His team members would be able to quickly finish the enemy off, and none of them would need to die anymore. He did not have the time to hesitate. A lot of the people in the Windcatcher department were veterans from the battlefield. Team leader Liu was one such person. Thus, he would not hesitate to stake his life when needed. Suyu trembled. Military order. He did not know if he could complete the task assigned to him. He thought he could, as his illusion had worked even on people like Liu Wenyan. This enemy was only an infinite strength cultivator. It should work. But if he failed here, team leader Liu would die. Was that a responsibility he could bear? Team leader Liu did not give him the chance to hesitate. The team leader yelled, "Group 2, pull back 3 meters. Group 1, use your tridents." The officers did not hesitate to carry out the orders. The cult member roared again, swinging his staff repeatedly. The officers were forced to retreat again and again. Many of the officers were already bleeding badly from their arms, but their will to fight was still as strong as ever. Team leader Liu started moving into the gap between the two groups. He did not look at Suyu, but he softly spoke. "The moment he breaks through Group 1, create your illusion. I'll kill him." As for whether Suyu could carry out the order in time, he did not waste his time thinking about it. With or without Suyu, he would still do the same thing. There were only 2 options. Either he risked death, or more of his team members would risk death. Suyu was feeling extremely nervous. He wanted to swallow the blood essence and join the fight. But even with the blood essence, he would only have the offensive strength of a great strength cultivator. That was useless against an infinite strength cultivator. Suyu clenched his teeth. "I can only rely on my illusion. But what illusion can I use here?" If he wanted to fool this opponent, regular illusions wouldn't work. He sank into thought. Using the chief? No. The chief is only at the infinite strength realm. The mayor? No. The mayor will sink the enemy deeper into despair and force him to struggle even harder. I need to give him hope, not desperation. Against a cornered infinite strength cultivator, he had to change his line of thinking. Yes, I need to create the illusion of his companion, a companion here to save him. Suyu reached a decision. He was aware that his decision would decide whether a respectable man would live or die. He wasn't really close to team leader Liu, but he did not wish to see the team leader die here. Neither did he want to see anyone else die here. Chapter 64. Comrade 2. As the cult members struggled to escape, more and more officers were injured. The cult member was also filled with injuries. His entire body was dyed red with blood. Like a desperate beast, he roared, "Liu Pingshan, if I'm going to die, I'll drag all of you into the grave as well. Talk is cheap. Do it if you can." Liu Pingshan appeared cold and indifferent. With a saber in hand, he continued filling up the gaps left behind by his injured team members. Suddenly, a trident wielder was struck. The trident was sent flying while the wielder's arms broke. Liu Pingshan's expression changed as he shouted, "Stop him!" As Liu Pingshan rushed over, the cult member was overjoyed. He finally saw an opportunity to escape, and he was no longer in the mind to keep fighting these officers. His goal had always been to escape this place. As for what he said to Liu Pingshan earlier, those were merely threats. He definitely didn't want to die together with Liu Pingshan. Who would want to die if there was a chance to live? At the exact moment the cult member made his escape, Liu Pingshan arrived in front of him. The two were less than 3 meters away from each other. The cult member only needed to swing his staff forward to crush Liu Pingshan's skull. Naturally, if Liu Pingshan swung his blade without bothering to defend himself, he would be able to inflict a heavy injury on the cult member before dying. The cult member did not have the intention to stake his life here. Thus, he continued trying to escape. At that moment, the scene before his eyes flickered. Not far away, one of the escaped cult members appeared and shouted, "The Hall Master is here. If we can kill all these officers, we will be greatly rewarded." The Hall Master referred to someone from the Myriad race cult, not the Windcatcher department. Their Hall Master had arrived? The cult member blanked out slightly. Then he was overjoyed. A Hall Master was someone in the Skysoar realm. Someone like that had actually arrived. He recognized the distant cult member. That was an underling of his who had escaped earlier. He did not expect to see that person returning. Clearly, that person was not returning to throw his life away. The cult member was ecstatic. Not only would he survive, he would even earn some contribution points from this. Fully eliminating a team of Windcatcher officers would earn him a decent number of points. Then, the cult member saw a figure appearing in the distant horizon. The figure appeared illusory, but the cult member did not suspect anything. After all, that figure was still quite far away. Help was here. Help had really arrived. The helper was definitely someone from their side, or that underling of his would have been killed already. Everything had happened too fast. The cult member wasn't given the time to suspect or even think of anything. For example, his underling was on the ground while the hallmaster was in the air. How did the person on the ground know that the hallmaster was coming when the hallmaster was still so far away? Did the hallmaster introduce himself loudly from far away to that underling of his? Well, there was no time to consider all that. The cult member only knew that there was hope for him. With hope, his ferocity vanished. He did not want to die. He only needed to last a little bit longer, and all these annoying Windcatcher officers would die. Suddenly the world before his eyes started flickering, not far away. Su Yu's head was hurting so much he felt like it was going to burst apart. His willpower was too weak. Thus, the moment he used his illusion on an infinite strength cultivator, he instantly overexhausted his willpower. However, he had distracted the enemy long enough. Team leader Liu was near the enemy. When he noticed that his enemy had been distracted, he immediately grabbed the chance. His enemy had actually been distracted. Su Yu had succeeded. Without making a sound, team leader Liu clenched his teeth and swung his blade. As the blade whistled through the air, the cult member recovered from the illusion. The underling and the hallmaster were all gone from his vision. There was only Liu Pingshan's vicious face and the rapidly incoming blade before his eyes. Cultural researcher. That was the cult member's final thought. He couldn't believe that a cultural researcher would actually bother to lift a finger against him. Was Liu Wenyan here? We'll die together. In his desperation, the cult member roared and swung his staff, not bothering to avoid the blade. Boom! The staff struck Liu Pingshan, creating a depression on his shoulder. However, a smile could be seen on Liu Pingshan's bloody face. In front of him, the cult member had nearly been cleaved into two. With a plop, the corpse collapsed onto the ground. Team leader! The Windcatcher officers exclaimed in alarm. The 7th stage Great Strength officers hurriedly rushed forth and launched a few more attacks at the cult member, only stopping after the corpse was cut into mincemeat. They then rushed toward their team leader. I'm fine. Liu Pingshan was able to resist the pain. He had lost an arm from that clash, but it was worth it as an infinite strength enemy had been killed as an exchange. With a trembling voice, Liu Pingshan ordered, "Continue searching the battlefield. Make sure no cult members are pretending to be dead." After giving his order, he looked at Su Yu. At that moment, the pale Su Yu was resting with his eyes shut. A fierce grin bloomed on Liu Pingshan's face. Su Long's son was indeed not a coward. About 15 minutes later, after a short rest, Su Yu had recovered somewhat. He was still pale, but he was feeling much better. He did not feel any joy. Instead, he sank into a silent melancholy. 2 were killed and about a dozen were injured. That was the casualties they had suffered. The corpses of the dead officers had already been retrieved. The 2 corpses were lying before all of them. Meanwhile, team leader Liu had applied some bandages on the wound on his shoulder. That arm of his was as good as gone, but he did not seem to care about his arm. While resisting his pain and sorrow, he grinned. Not bad. We killed 13 enemies. There's even an infinite strength cultivator among them. This is worth a lot of merit points. As for our 2 departed brothers, the smile on Liu Pingshan's face turned ferocious as he said, all of us are ready to face death the moment we step onto the battlefield. With their deaths, Nanyuan will compensate 300,000 to their families. The capital will also compensate 200,000, and U.S. brothers can also gather up some money. Including the rewards of this mission, their families will gain at least $1 million. It's only a pity that little Chen is still too young. As for that crafty old Joe, this is a worthy death for him. Team leader Liu's smile looked so ugly that it looked like he was crying instead of smiling. His face was filled with blood, and his face was twisted as he forced himself to smile. Little Chen was dead. The young officer who chatted with Su Yu on their journey here was the first to be killed. He was the first person to discover the enemy hidden in the attic of the house. Upon discovery, the enemy had held nothing back and instantly killed him. Su Yu stood in silence. He had seen people dying before, but Big Brother Chen had still just been chatting with him not too long ago. And now he was a cold corpse on the ground. Su Yu did not know how to describe his current emotions. He recalled that his father was fighting on an even scarier battlefield. A battlefield 1,000 times more dangerous. Myriad race, cult, myriad races. Su Yu muttered to himself. He found himself developing a sense of dislike toward the 6th principal of the Cultural Research Academy. He had heard that the 6th principal was the one who had suggested accepting the foreign races as students. He suddenly felt revolted at the idea of joining the Cultural Research Academy. He did not want to study in the same academy as those bastards from the foreign races. He suddenly understood why Zia Longwu objected to the proposal so vehemently. Looking at his dead soldiers, his dead companions, if it was up to Su Yu, he would not be able to accept the proposal either. The cult members were merely the dogs of these foreign races. Now, the masters of the dogs were coming. They were going to openly enter the academy and study alongside humans. Su Yu clenched his teeth in anger. He did not want to study alongside those bastards. He had completely forgotten about the merit points that he was about to get. His only thought was to kill every last one of those animals. Unknown to him, team leader Liu had arrived beside him. After patting his shoulder with a blood-stained hand, the team leader smiled. "Well done. From now on, you're our comrade. We are comrades that have stared into death together. The next time you see your father, feel free to address him as a comrade." Su Yu forced himself to smile, but he was finding it hard to feel any joy. "We have long accepted that this would happen to us one day. Their deaths were worth it. You're still young. At the academy, learn well and cultivate hard. Grow strong and kill more of the bastards. That will be the responsibility of you and your peers." Team leader Liu was solemn. "Do not be afraid. Do not think that this isn't worth it. With 2 lives, we took down 13 of their lives. We took down 13 of their lives. This is totally worth it. At the Al-Haven battlefield, if you can kill several times more enemies than the deaths on your side, it will be greatly worth it as well. The Myriad race cult is merely a gathering of worms. Great Zia has been spilling rivers of their blood year after year." The team leader patted Su Yu's shoulder and said, "If you don't want to see more people die, if you don't want to see your comrades die, work hard. If you're a Skysoar cultivator instead, not one of us would have perished today. We're already old. We're useless. But there is still hope for you. Reach the Skysoar realm faster. The mayor is old. Instructor Liu is old as well. If you can return as a Skysoar cultivator and lead Nenyuan, perhaps even more of us can survive against our enemies in the future." Skysoar realm. That was what team leader Liu hoped to see Su Yu achieve. Was that difficult? Yes, that was very difficult. At the very least, that was the case for a small city like Nenyuan. Each year many of them went to the capital to cultivate, but how many eventually ended up reaching the Skysoar realm? He was encouraging Su Yu. He also believed that Su Yu really had the hope to reach that realm. After all, Su Yu was already an 8th stage source opening cultivator. Even if this kid decided to not be a cultural researcher, he still had the hope of reaching the Skysoar realm through physical cultivation in about 20 years, becoming the new pride of Nenyuan. It was too hard to become a cultural researcher, but he had a high chance of reaching the Skysoar realm. How many years had it been since someone from Nenyuan managed to reach that realm? All right? Su Yu nodded firmly. He wanted to reach the Skysoar realm. No, he wanted to go even further. What his instructor had not taught him had been learned here today. Life and death. Life and death of his comrades. Life and death of his companions. They did not stake their life in vicious battles for the sake of any individual or superior. Rather, they were fighting for their own sake. Also for the sake of their fellow comrades who were fighting and shedding blood beside them. Chapter 65. You look so good when you're shameless one before long. They were done cleaning up the battlefield. The northern team returned, each carrying at least one wound. On the truck. For the return trip, Suyu was in the same truck as the team leader. Team leader Liu's left arm was filled with blood. However, the iron-willed guy acted like he could feel no pain. He was even in the mood to tease Suyu. Your father used to love bragging about killing infinite strength cultivator as a great strength cultivator. I think everyone in Anyuan has heard his story by now. But look at me. I just killed an infinite strength cultivator as well, but I'm not getting all cocky. Suyu was originally in a somber mood, but the team leader's words lightened the mood considerably. Previously, he saw team leader Liu as a serious and strict individual, but now, his impression has changed. Suyu understood that he had obtained the team leader's acknowledgement. Previously, in team leader Liu's eyes, Suyu was a baggage that might trouble the Windcatcher department during critical moments and mess up their mission. But today, Suyu had contributed to the fight with the infinite strength cultivator. If it wasn't for the short distraction provided by Suyu, even if that cult member would still die, the department would probably suffer massive losses to achieve that. It wasn't proper for Suyu to gossip about his father, so he changed the topic. Team leader Liu, just call me Uncle Liu. Team leader Liu was no longer looking so strict. He smiled and said, "We're like family, and you're not a part of the department, so don't be too formal with me." Uncle Liu, Suyu did not hesitate. He asked, "There are quite a lot of cult members this time. They even have an infinite strength cultivator with them. If they work together and stand their ground in the house, the department won't be able to defeat them so easily, right?" Team leader Liu nodded. Of course, if they had defended the house, with an infinite strength cultivator around, they only need to hold our advance and buy time for the infinite strength cultivator to sneak behind us, and we will probably lose around half our people. You want to ask why they were so foolish to flee separately? Liu Pingshan sneered. Because they're scared of death. Who in the Myriad race cult is not afraid of death? Standing and fighting, that means fighting with their lives on the line. Why should they do so? When danger arrives, it's every man for himself. By escaping, there is a chance of survival. But if they stand and fight, the people holding the line will definitely die. Liu Pingshan was filled with disdain. The Myriad race cult has elites as well. Their elites are actually quite strong, but they lack the conviction to stake their life. Of course, there are some lunatics within the cult that are willing to do so, but those lunatics will only appear in major operations. A small branch like this will not have anyone willing to fight. They are decent when things are advantageous for them, but if there is a chance of defeat or death, they will instantly fall apart. Liu Pingshan looked at Suyu and seriously said, "That was why I called them worms. No matter how many experts they have, any setback will break them. That is completely unlike the human armies that can fight regardless of whether things are going well or not. In warfare, morale matters a lot." Liu Pingshan's face turned solemn. "So long as we maintain our morale, even if we are weaker, we still stand a chance to turn things around, to come back from death's door, to defeat the many with the few. Morale is a major component in such feats. No matter how many of us you kill, you won't be able to break us. The elite armies of humanity, such as the martial dragon guards, are capable of fighting until the very last man without breaking. However, a worthless army of 100,000 will probably break after losing about 10% of their people. On the battlefield, very few are willing to fight until the very end." Liu Pingshan gave it some thought and added, "If you have the chance to step foot in the Al-Havan battlefield one day, you will discover that when two armies of 100,000 soldiers meet, most of the casualties do not come from the direct clash. Rather, they come from the pursuit phase after one of them starts routing. Therefore, the first priority of any human army in the Al-Havan battlefield is morale. Those charging at the vanguard are all veterans that have served at least 10 years in the army. They are the best of the best, the ones who will remain unyielding even when casualties reach 50% or more. If new recruits are allowed to stay at the front, the moment they suffer high casualties, they will break and drag the entire army down with them. There are many examples of armies destroyed by their own routing soldiers on the battlefield." Suyu nodded. His doubts were dispelled. He had been wondering if the cult members were being particularly stupid today, or if that infinite strength cultivator was a fool. Why would that person hide in the house? He might as well lead his underlings out and fight. That way, the chances of them escaping or even winning the fight would be higher. But now, Su Yu understood. The issue was that the cult members were afraid of death. Sure, nobody was unafraid of death. Were Liu Pingshan and the others afraid of death? Yes, however they had conviction, faith, and courage. Uncle Liu, which human army is the strongest on the Alhaven battlefield? Cough, cough. The question was making Liu Pingshan awkward. After thinking about it, he decided to be honest. I'm afraid of misleading you. If you're not going there in the future, it's fine for me to brag here. But you might really go there one day. I can't mislead you. On the Alhaven battlefield, human armies are very tenacious and powerful. But if we call them unrivaled, then we are overestimating ourselves. The divines, the devils, the demons, and even some minor races have their own elite armies. They are very capable as well, Liu Pingshan narrated. Back then, when I was at the Alhaven battlefield, I once encountered a contingent of 1,000 soldiers from the Celestial Devil Guards. I was serving in the mountain-shaking army. There were 10,000 of us and 1,000 of them. The soldiers of both parties were mostly in the great strength and infinite strength realms. We encountered each other at the sealed Dragon Gorge and fought there. In the end, after losing 4,000 of us, we defeated them. Liu Pingshan sighed. They are really strong. They fought until the very end. I remember that toward the end, they only have a single third-stage Skysoar cultivator surviving. That person could have escaped since we had suffered massive casualties as well. But that fellow launched a final charge at us. He died facing us, not with his back to us. The mountain-shaking army almost fell apart during that battle. In the end, our general arrived and personally buried them there. Apart from their weapons and some other spoils of war, all their corpses were buried there. We did not harvest their corpses. In truth, corpse harvesting was extremely profitable in the Alhaven battlefield. However, that army had earned their respect, so the mountain-shaking army decided to bury them instead of harvesting them. Su Yu exhaled lightly. So there were actually such unyielding armies among the other races on the Alhaven battlefield as well? That wasn't supposed to be a surprise, but the thought had simply never crossed his mind since in Great Zia, the governmental propaganda only focused on the greatness of their military. Liu Pingshan continued. Of course, there are very few armies like that. They are mostly the elites of the various races. The human race has powerful armies, but we also have some weak armies as well. Not every army will be an elite. We shouldn't underestimate ourselves. But we also shouldn't overestimate ourselves and look down on the Myriad races. If we're really that strong, we would be the ones invading them instead of fighting them to a standstill on the Alhaven battlefield. Su Yu nodded. While they were conversing, the trucks had entered the city. Halfway through the video. Enjoying the story? Subscribe for more. Chapter 66. You look so good when you're shameless too. Inside the city, things were as peaceful as ever. The small battle outside the city did not attract much attention from the masses. One difference was that some foreign vehicles could now be seen on the roads. These vehicles came from the capital. The entrance examinations were drawing near, and the visitors were starting to arrive. Team leader Liu saw the new vehicles as well. He said, "Don't worry, you can even skip the exam if you want. You've helped us with an infinite strength cult member. You've also killed a 6th-stage great strength cult member alone. Including your past contributions, you can easily enter a cultural research or a war academy without taking any exams." Those words would probably drive Chen Hao mad. Skipping the examinations. Free entry. If Chen Hao learned of that, he would probably start complaining that life was unfair. Bai Feng had previously given his 2 guaranteed slots to Su Yu and Loi Yu, and now Su Yu had earned enough contributions to be exempted from the examinations. It was as though he alone had monopolized all opportunities. However, the strong would always be the strong. It was completely normal for the strong to continue gaining more. After giving it some thought, Su Yu said, "Team leader Liu, you can't give me the credit for the kill of the infinite strength cultivator. I don't want to attract reprisals from the cult. I'm still a source opening cultivator. I'll stick out like a sore thumb. If you don't mind losing the bonus marks, that won't be a problem." Liu Pingshan smiled. Some agencies and organizations can only see your merit points, and not the source of your points. The military is in charge of the merit system. Apart from the military, no other organization or agency can get involved in the merit system. That is a system under direct supervision of the prefect. Even the Myriad race cult would not be able to see your information unless they managed to sneak a spy into the higher-ups of the military. Suyu exhaled in relief. He wanted the merit points, but he was also worried that he would attract too much attention. That wouldn't be good, especially since he was only a source-opening cultivator. How had he helped in the battle? How big of a help was he? If news of what he did spread, what would he do if the cult sent some infinite strength, or even Skyzor cultivators to kill him? Thus, it was imperative that he stayed low profile. Of course, he still couldn't give up on the merit points. The merit points could increase his authority level. Additionally, the points could also be used to purchase some things he needed. You killed a middle-stage great strength cultivator by yourself, earning 2 merit points. You also helped with the early-stage infinite strength cultivator. Generally, you can get at least 10 merit points for that. But since we're all fighting above our class, we will receive double the points. Additionally, we have also eliminated a cult hideout, so we will be rewarded for that as well. Liu Pingshan did not want to leave the impression of someone who would steal the contribution of others, he seriously explained. Thus, we will earn about 25 to 30 merit points for this mission. Naturally, if a Skyzor cultivator was there to help us, we would only receive 10 merit points. The rewards are not fixed. They will change according to the situation. Although you have contributed greatly with your illusion, little Chen had. Suyu, according to our rules, the dead will have a share of the rewards as well. At most, you will probably receive only 5 merit points for the kill. Suyu was stunned. He wasn't surprised because the reward was underwhelming. Rather, it was overwhelming. He had only performed a small distraction, but he stood to earn as many merit points as someone who had killed 5 early-stage great strength cultivators. Uncle Liu Pingshan interrupted him. Don't think that this is too little. Including the great strength cultivator you killed, you can earn around 7 merit points in total. Also, we can't share the spoils of war with you, but you should understand why. Of course, if one day you are officially invited on one of our missions, you will be entitled to share the spoils of that mission as well. That was also part of the rules. Suyu had joined the mission uninvited this time. The department was already being very kind by allowing him to join them. He was not entitled to the spoils of war. Otherwise, the department would probably be flooded with volunteers. However, in situations where the department needed to carry out a major mission and lacked manpower, they would invite some helpers. Those helpers would be entitled to share the spoils of war. Liu Pingshan patted Suyu's shoulder and smiled. I'll get someone to notify you the next time we find a small hideout. That way, it will be an official invitation, and you can share the spoils of war as well. I'm afraid you will have to let the others have all the spoils this time. In truth, the department had never invited a source-opening cultivator to help with a mission before. Historically, they had only invited those above the 7th-stage great strength realm for their missions. Suyu did not say anything. As far as he was concerned, he had earned a lot from this mission. 7 merit points, coupled with the 3 merit points he had earned from the previous Windcatcher Department missions he had joined. He had earned a total of 10 merit points from them. The languages he knew had earned him 18 merit points. Killing the cult member at the school had earned him 3 merit points. He had earned 31 merit points in total. Of course, excluding the 7 points he was about to get, he only had 10 points left. As for his original earned merit, he only had 28 points. The points from the kill at the school were credited under Chen Heo's name since he was the one who had made the claim. It was extremely rare for someone to accumulate 28 original earned merit points at the source opening realm. That was extremely difficult unless one did something ridiculous like mastering 28 languages. Before they knew it, they had returned to the department. Everyone started getting off the trucks. The chief, Zheng Hao, was waiting outside the entrance. When he saw his officers getting off the truck, he nodded at them. But when his gaze landed on Liu Pingshan's arm, a look of pain covered his eyes. As a 9th-stage great strength cultivator, Liu Pingshan was one of the powerhouses of the department, but with one of his arms crippled, his strength would drop greatly. He would most likely be forced into early retirement. And looking at the 2 corpses, Zheng Hua sighed. He bowed and saluted the two corpses silently. After greeting Su Yu with a nod, he gestured at Liu Pingshan to enter the office for a meeting. Su Yu did not linger and left the department shortly after. Nanyuan's secondary school. Liu Wenyan was also sighing. After a sigh, he cursed. Ridiculous! His sigh was directed toward the two officers who had sacrificed their lives during the mission. His curse was directed toward Su Yu's rashness. With such a weak willpower, that kid actually dared to attack an infinite strength cultivator. Was he suicidal? If his opponent also had a decently strong willpower, with Su Yu's weak willpower, a single moment of carelessness would result in a backlash, turning him into a madman. Fortunately, that opponent was a pure warrior, without much accomplishments in willpower cultivation. However, one ought to know that there were a lot of people who had only started physical cultivation after failing to advance in willpower cultivation. In fact, even those in the mental tempering stage might shift their focus to become physical cultivators. And if Su Yu's opponent was one such individual, he would not survive the encounter. Liu Wenyan could only rejoice that the opponent Su Yu had encountered this time wasn't such a person, but would he stay lucky forever? Challenging an infinite strength cultivator as a source-opening cultivator was too dangerous. But he did well. After he was done cursing, Liu Wenyan smiled. At the very least, that kid had demonstrated valor and responsibility. Instead of pissing his pants in fear, the kid had actually volunteered to help. That was a form of unyielding valor, helping in a fight against an infinite strength cultivator at the source-opening realm. That kid is getting more and more outstanding. I am starting to feel reluctant to send him to the academy. The old man muttered for a bit before he started cursing again. Damn that Bai Feng. How is he qualified to teach that kid? Wan Tiansheng would be a better candidate as that kid's teacher, but his tone immediately shifted. Then again, that's good. He can keep a low profile under Bai Feng. Bai Feng has decent potential as well. If he really doesn't cut it, I can still get his teacher to teach that kid. After talking to himself for a bit, Liu Wenyan picked up the communicator on the desk and hesitated. After a short while, he dialed a number. Before long, the call connected. However, nobody spoke on the line. Liu Wenyan remained silent as well. After almost a minute of silence, he said, I have a promising student. After he joins the academy, watch out for him. Liu Wenyan, are you begging me? Like hell I'm begging you. Liu Wenyan scolded. I won't beg you. Are you brainless? You fool. I'm only asking you to watch his back. Watch the back of an outstanding student. The other voice replied, Beg me, and I'll take care of him. Otherwise, I'll target him. This is the first time you're begging me in so many years. Beg my ass. Is scolding people the only thing you've learned all these years? Liu Wenyan was furious. Wu Yuehua, are you asking for a fight? Do you think I won't be able to find someone willing to help me in the academy? Sure you can. But, are you willing to contact those people? The other voice replied calmly. Apart from me, who else can you find? Your junior brother. That Hongai has recently gone to the Al-Heaven battlefield. I don't know if he can even return alive. Are you sure you're going to look for him? What? He went to the Al-Heaven battlefield? Yeah, maybe he's entering a newly discovered realm. Nobody knows when he'll return. Liu Wenyan frowned. He couldn't be bothered to ask more and said, Cut the crap. You'll take care of my student. Also, are you stupid? Who told you to repay the merit points for me? Tell Wan Tiansheng to spit those points out. Liu Wenyan roared. 50,000 merit points, including the points he had deduced from me over the years. He owes me over 70 points. He better spit them all out or I'll make him pay. Are they yours? Are any of the 50,000 points yours? What stupid question is that? Since you've paid the debt on my behalf, the merit points are as good as mine. The other voice was rendered speechless. After a while it said, Since when are you so shameless? I've always been shameless. Liu Wenyan was still furious. If I knew shame, I would have found a place nobody knows me and hid forever. Why the hell would I continue staying in Great Zia? If I knew shame, I wouldn't have called you. Shame? What is that? After a while, the other voice sighed and said, I really want to see how you look when you're saying all these shameless words. So are you coming back? No. Liu Wenyan's tone turned hostile. Why should I return? Am I supposed to return to allow the others to sneer and laugh at me? If I return, that fellow will start targeting me. Enough about all that. Just watch my student's back. I'm worried that he will be targeted by others. Ignore everything else. Also, I'm lacking money recently. Just send me a couple hundred drops of divine and devil blood. I need to forge my body. I'll pay you back when I get the money. Liu Wenyan, I really want to see your shameless face. Why don't I personally deliver you the blood essence? I want to see if you'll have the guts to say the same words to my face. Why are you saying all those useless words? Liu Wenyan raged. Just get someone to deliver the blood essence. If you're unwilling, so be it. Do you think I really care about some blood essence? I'm just worried that they would go to waste in your storage. Do. The call ended. Liu Wenyan blanked out slightly before rubbing his red face. That was too embarrassing. He couldn't believe what he just said. Since when was he so shameless? Sigh. Old Wang must have influenced me too much. Liu Wenyan sighed and tossed the blame to the principal. He insisted that the principal was the negative influence, turning him into such a shameless person. Chapter 67, Su Family's Residence. 1 drop of Source Chi liquid, 4 drops of iron-winged bird blood essence, 10 merit points, $30,000 in cash, Source opening codex, lightning source blade, blood clotting blade, divine skywing technique. Great strength chapter. A. Great strength bone fragment, a complete bone fragment, and a middle-tier yellow-grade standard design saber. These were all of Su Yu's current possessions. They were all laid out on the table. He was staring at them while in deep thought. He had been in deep thought after returning from the Windcatcher department. He was wondering if he was being too stingy. Previously, he had thought that he had been spending so much money that he was going to empty his pockets soon. He wondered if being an 8th stage source opening cultivator was enough. He was a student that had yet to even graduate from secondary school. Was that cultivation level not enough? He had barely touched his merit points. He still had 10 points with him. His Source Chi liquid would have been untouched as well if he hadn't been forced to use them recently. He was reflecting on his choices. What was the point of accumulating wealth if he wasn't going to use it? Was he supposed to wait until he was a super expert before buying what he wanted? But if he wasn't willing to use his wealth now, how was he supposed to grow quickly? I need to transform my wealth into my strength. I'm going to get 7 merit points soon. My willpower has been stuck at around 19%. I can't even properly read that incomplete bone fragment. I have not been using the book in my head much either. He would rarely activate the book in his head. On average, he would only use it around once every 5 or 6 days. At times, he would even wait 10 days before using it. That was because each usage felt incomparably expensive. A single usage would cost him at least $30,000 or 1 merit point. He couldn't afford to use it every day. But without Source Chi, how can I cultivate? How can I practice the saber technique? How can I cultivate my acupoints? How can I grow quickly? 17 merit points. If I manage to reach the infinite strength realm, I only need to kill 2 early-stage infinite strength cultivators to earn that much. But at the Source opening realm, I need to kill more than a dozen of great strength cultivators, with each fight being extremely risky. He seemed to be reaching a certain understanding, but he was still confused about something as well. But at the very least, he had realized the importance of actually utilizing his wealth and resources to gain more strength. Nothing could be more reliable than his own strength. Sure, no Nanyuan student could compete against him, but what about the capital? And even ignoring the capital, if his identity as a student was not taken into consideration, what was so special about an 8th stage source opening cultivator? What was so special about having 19% willpower? The exam is 14 days away. From today onwards, I'll use the book once per day and cultivate while absorbing Source Chi. It would cost him 14 merit points to do so, but since he already had 4 drops of blood essence, he only needed to spend 10 merit points. His remaining merit points could also be used to purchase more blood essence for emergencies. After all the wealth in the world would do him no good if he was dead. Su Yu had not left his home since then. He didn't even leave to purchase the blood essence he needed. Rather, he had Chen Hao make the purchase for him. He had spent 10 merit points for the blood essence. Now he had 14 drops of iron-winged bird blood essence. If it wasn't for the fact that he was running out of money, he would have bought some Source Chi liquid to help with his cultivation as well. With the source chi liquid, he could keep his surroundings constantly saturated with thick ambient source chi. He was also starting to seriously consider selling his house and use the million he could earn to buy 10 drops of source chi liquid. Alas, that wasn't possible, so he could only erase that thought from his mind. It was also good that he still had a home. At the very least, he would have a roof above his head. While Suyu was focused on his cultivation, multiple major events were unfolding in Great Zia. The martial dragon guards had been recalled from the battlefield. They had suffered nearly 1,000 casualties, but they also returned with a large amount of resources and treasures. Despite their bountiful harvest, the martial dragon guards were unhappy. Great Zia City, capital of Great Zia, Prefect's Manor. Right after walking through the main gate, one would be faced with a massive square. A burly man with a height of about 1.9 meters was standing in the middle of the square with a furious expression on his face. He was clad in a black armor, and he was not carrying any weapon with him. The man was staring straight at the distant manor. That was Great Zia's main seat of power. This general requests an audience with Marquis Zia. The man's voice was loud and sonorous. Nearby, several manor guards were standing silently, turning a blind eye to him. Their heads were lowered, acting like the man was not present. Marquis, the martial dragon guards have returned from the front. This general is here for briefing. A short while later, an old man came out. When he saw the man, he softly said, "General, the Marquis said that you should go back and take a rest after such a difficult and tiring journey." "Rest?" The man coldly said, "The Marquis is unwilling to see me. The Marquis has retired for the day. The sun hasn't even set, and the Marquis has retired for the day." The man roared. "Does Great Zia have nothing to attend to? Is there nothing for the acting prefect to do? Since the military order has been issued, there is no need for you to keep thinking about it." "Bullshit!" the burly man roared. "Keep thinking about it. Nearly 1,000 soldiers of the martial dragon guards have sacrificed their lives for this victory. A single military order is supposed to placate me." The old man sank into a long silence before saying, "General, the Marquis knows that he has issued a wrong order." In truth, the Marquis was fooled by someone as well. During the appointment ceremony, Wan Tiansheng instigated the Marquis to do so. I believe you're aware of that as well. The Marquis is unfamiliar with matters of war. How was he supposed to know what's the right thing to do? With his glib tongue, Wan Tiansheng convinced the Marquis. That was how the withdrawal order came to be. The old man sighed. Wan Tiansheng leads the Great Zia Cultural Research Academy. Half of the cultural researchers in our army came from his academy. Without the prefect, Wan Tiansheng's authority is too big. With the cultural researchers under his control, if the Marquis refuses to withdraw the army, the cultural researchers might really decide to abandon the military. What are you supposed to do then? Are you really going to pit the martial dragon guards against the divine skywing race in a fight to the death? Wan Tiansheng? The burly man's voice was cold. He is meddling too much, to the point he's even extending his reach to the military now. Is he not afraid to have his arm broken from reaching too far? If the prefect has not entered seclusion, he naturally wouldn't dare to do so. The old man sighed. With the prefect in seclusion, he is not afraid of the Marquis. Nor is he afraid of you, General. The burly man sank into silence. To tell you the truth, the Marquis greatly regrets the order, but he can't do anything about it. The old man sighed yet again. At this point, the Marquis can only maintain his silence. Is he supposed to turn against Wan Tiansheng? General, the military still needs the help of cultural researchers. We can't really do anything about Wan Tiansheng. What a joke. Great Zia is still Great Zia. The burly man said the same words Zia Bing had said previously. This is Great Zia, not the knowledge-seeking realm. The burly man sank into silence. After a while, he coldly asked, "Did the prefect agree to the withdrawal before his seclusion?" No. The prefect went into seclusion before the appointment ceremony. The burly man gazed at the old man in silence for a while before saying, "Senior Hu, The prefect is in charge of the military, while you're in charge of the administrative affairs. Are you saying that both you and the prefect had not tacitly agreed to this ridiculous proposal of Wan Tiansheng? The old man smiled. Of course not. So even I need to be kept in the dark. The burly man was unhappy. He was not a random nobody. He was the deputy general of the Martial Dragon Guards, a Mountain Sea realm expert. With Zia Longwu remaining in Great Zia, he was the one in charge of leading the Martial Dragon Guards on most of their campaigns. I am telling the truth. The old man seriously said. Wan Tiansheng saw that the prefect had entered seclusion and grabbed the opportunity to snatch power. The Cultural Research Academy is too important to Great Zia, and Wan Tiansheng is also someone sent from the knowledge-seeking realm to lead the cultural researchers of Great Zia. You must watch your words. Knowledge-seeking realm, the burly man muttered before snorting coldly. The knowledge-seeking realm has sealed itself for many years. Are they even aware of Wan Tiansheng's actions in Great Zia? As long as the knowledge-seeking realm remains silent, he will remain as the leader of Great Zia's cultural researchers. We can't change that. The old man shook his head before continuing. The Marquis can only restrict him somewhat. That was why the funding for the Cultural Research Academy has been reduced by 30%. That is the most we can do. Cutting the funding of the Cultural Research Academy? Ridiculous, the burly man berated. Cultural researchers should not be lumped together with Wan Tiansheng. Cutting the funding will only result in fewer new cultural researchers. Even those sent to the Al-Haven battlefield will be weaker. How are they supposed to help us face our enemies then? He might dislike Wan Tiansheng, but he certainly didn't want to see the Cultural Research Academy implicated. That would only reduce the number of new cultural researchers and affect the front line. Wan Tiansheng will have a way to solve it. He promised that the number of graduates and cultural researchers sent to the military each year will be the same. If not, he will send the elites from the Academy's Heart Cultivating Pavilion to the front line instead. The Heart Cultivating Pavilion represented the elites of the Great Zia Cultural Research Academy. Most of the Academy's elders cultivated there. It also had plenty of Cloud Breach and Mountain Sea cultivators in it. They were practically one of the most high-end organizations in Great Zia, and they occupied the same status as the Great Zia War Academy's Brixie House. Since Wan Tiansheng had actually made such a promise, there was nothing the burly man could say. The burly man coldly said, I'll let it slide this time. If this happens again, do know that when a general is on the field, there are times when he is allowed to disregard military orders. That is only natural, General. The old man did try to further persuade the burly man. After seeing the burly man off, he turned around and returned to the building behind him. A chubby man was having a meal within that building. Without even looking up, he asked, He left? Yes. He's going to look for Wan Tiansheng. No idea. The chubby old man finally looked up with a smile on his face. It would be fun if the two started going at each other. Marquis, why don't we tell General Zhao the truth? The chubby old man said. Why else? Because we get to watch a good show if he doesn't know the truth. The old man frowned and said, Marquis, this isn't right. It will only create more trouble in the prefecture. I'm not afraid of that, the chubby old man belched without a care for his image, and lazily said, Isn't Wan Tiansheng amazing? Isn't he incredible? Well, let old Zhao give him some trouble then. Also, old Zhao is right. Wan Tiansheng is starting to meddle too much. We will use old Zhao to knock some sense into him. Of course, old Zhao will ultimately lose the conflict between the two. Even a blind person can see that, but it's still good to give that fellow some trouble. But the old man was about to say more when the chubby old man interrupted him with a belch. While yawning, the chubby old man said, It's time for my afternoon nap. If Wan Tiansheng can't deal with this much trouble, he should give up on his so-called reforming Great Zia. He made it sound so simple. The chubby old man said with contempt, If it's really so easy, why would we need to wait until now? It has been Great Zia's tradition for years that we will not seek an alternative to obtain things we can get from the battlefield. That's pretty dumb. I also feel like little Zia is stupid. Unfortunately, he has some really strong fists despite the deficiencies of his brain. The chubby old man sighed. He has strong fists. He can deliver you pain just like his grandpa. That old bastard is the same. He lacks intelligence and thinks with his muscles. It's a waste of time trying to reason with such people. The old man's expression changed. He stayed silent, not daring to comment on the so-called grandpa. Only Marquis Zia would have the guts to say that about Great Zia King. If one Tiansheng can't even change those warmongers, he can forget about changing Great Zia. It's not like Great Zia is a prefecture of only a few people. There are hundreds of millions of people in Great Zia. All of them have been led astray by those dumb warmongers. The only thing in their mind is to hack and slash their way out of all trouble. The chubby old man said with disdain, I know that they are all brutes thinking with only their muscle. But what can I do? Those people will only beat you up whenever they disagree with you. It's not like I've never been beaten by them before. What can I do about them? That unfilial Zia Longwu dares to beat even his uncle. What can I do about that? If one Tiansheng wants to reform, he will have to deal with them himself. Old Zhao is also one of those brutes with muscle and no brain. I can't be bothered to explain myself to him. Let Wan Tiansheng handle him. The chubby old man stood up and sauntered off while saying, also, from today onwards, every mill expedition will have the expenses split to a ratio of 70 to 30. Great Zia will pay 70% of the expenses while they will need to cover the remaining 30%. They can raise their funds with their spoils of war. They are no longer allowed to privately sell their spoils. The Zia Trade Company will purchase all their spoils, Marquis. The old man advised, this is too fast. We need to slow down. If we do so, we will only create undesirable elements in the military. I'm worried that they will start selling military supplies on the battlefield instead. You need to consider this properly. That makes a lot of sense. Therefore, I've decided to establish a small department overseeing the Martial Dragon Guards, Great Zia Army, and Devil Subduing Army. The people from the Commerce Ministry and Zia Trade Company will man that department. The military will only be in charge of warfare. Everything else will be handled by the department. Marquis, the old man frowned. If you're really doing that, it's better that we send our people over under the prefectural government's name. Are those in the Zia Trade Company not Great Zia citizens as well? The chubby old man asked in astonishment. Am I wrong? Are you trying to draw a clear distinction between the Trade Company and Great Zia? No, that's not what I meant. We can't send those people under the Trade Company's name. That will only cause the military to degenerate. That's easy to solve. Those sent over will cease being Zia Trade Company's people. From now on, they are officially employed by the prefectural government. Just assign them some random positions. Also, you guys will be paying their salaries from now on. No, I mean the prefectural government will pay. The chubby old man was untroubled as he immediately came up with a solution. The old man did not know whether to laugh or cry. After thinking about it, he nodded. Fine, we'll do that. It's still better than sending those people under the Trade Company's name. The old man added, Marquis, the people from the War Shrine were here previously. They were asking for one of the divine Skywing corpses Great Zia obtained previously. Before he could finish his words, the chubby old man stomped his foot and scolded. Dream on! Those divine Skywings were killed by little Zia himself. The kills weren't even performed on the battlefield. They were all done on Great Zia's soil. I'm not giving them shit. But no means no. The chubby old man was furious. Tell my father to come get it himself. Damn them. Those old farts are capable of killing some divines themselves. Why are they trying to take from us? What are they thinking? So what if they're from the War Shrine? What's so great about them? That's simply a gathering of a bunch of ancient brutes. What fucking research can they do with the corpse? It's a waste to give it to them. Even the knowledge-seeking realm knows to get the corpses they need themselves. Why are those brutes trying to take from us? Tell them to go fuck themselves. After all, Marquis Zia's father was one of them. Chapter 68. Shameless Leader 2. The War Shrine and knowledge-seeking realm were the two holy lands of humanity. All cultural researchers aimed to enter the knowledge-seeking realm, while all warriors aimed to enter the War Shrine. Naturally, not everyone could make it inside. The great Zia King was naturally qualified to join. Furthermore, the War Shrine was basically founded by the invincible experts of their generation. They were only trying to ask for some support from their descendants. This Marquis Zia was being rather unreasonable here. After a while, the chubby old man finally calmed down. He gave it some thought and said, "Send them a corpse. However, make them pay with several thousand divine and devil corpses. They can easily kill that much with a wave of their arms, so those corpses shouldn't be worth much to them. We're sending them a top-notch corpse. They need to send us thousands of mountain sea corpses as compensation." Cough. The old man wanted to speak, but he eventually swallowed his own words. The chubby old man continued, I know, they don't have that many corpses. I'm asking for too much. Fine, they can pay with a couple secret grottos. I heard that my old man cut a chunk of space from an unknown location a couple of years ago. Great Zhao Qin also found a chunk of space a few years ago. Get them to pay with their secret grottos. Marquis, will that work? Will they even agree? The chubby old man stomped his foot in anger. Negotiate with them, damn it. If they refuse, start crying. Get a few thousand people and have them stand outside the war shrine and cry. Cry until they give in to our demand. They are the ones trying to take from us. Are they trying to get the corpse for free? Dream on. If they disagree, they can fuck off. Those old bastards only care about eating their fill. Why can't they think about their descendants? We're all hungry here. Tell my old man that if he refuses, I'll go and become great Ming King's grandkid instead. I'll anger that old fart to death. The old man was greatly troubled. He was afraid that great Zia King would kill him in anger instead. What was this? If Marquis Zia became great Ming King's grandchild, what about great Zia King? Was he going to become great Ming King's son? After all, he was Marquis Zia's father. What the hell was that? The old man no longer dared to say anything else. He hurriedly replied, I understand. I'll get someone to work on it. How about the other corpses? The Cultural Research Academy is asking for all the corpses for their research. One Tianchen can piss off. The chubby old man had a ferocious expression. However, the old man didn't know what to feel about that expression. He would rather this Marquis stop making a fierce expression, as when the Marquis was trying to look fierce. He looked more like a hungry, fat cat instead. They can have one corpse. The chubby old man did not care about what the old man was thinking. He said, also, if they want the corpse, one Tiansheng must produce 80 new cultural researchers this year. Any fewer than that, and I'll have a problem with him. If they can't produce enough cultural researchers, tell him to send some out of the heart cultivating pavilion. If he dares to steal the corpse from me, he will not get a single cent in funding for the second half of the year. All right, the old man continued. How about the War Academy? They're not getting any corpses. Just give them some blood essence. What can those brainless brutes do with the corpses? Are they going to eat them? The chubby old man had a rather uncouth mouth. After he was done unleashing a string of profanities, he continued. If the War Academy keeps sending novices that have never seen blood before to the front line, I'll cut their funding for the second half of the year by 50%. There's also the Internal Affairs Academy. Tell them to train their students faster. We lack a lot of specialists in the government. Also, is their spying course working? How many spies have they managed to send into the Myriad race cult? Have they found any treasure vaults? If they still can't find any, stop the program. It's very expensive to maintain. How about the Scientific Research Academy? I remember telling them to create a working war airship 50 years ago. I need airships capable of flying and carrying tens of thousands of warriors to the battlefield. What the fuck are they doing? Why are they not done? If they still can't do it, cut their funding. The only thing the old man got from this conversation was that a lot of funding was going to be cut. He finally couldn't hold back anymore and said, Marquis, if we really do all that, we can save around 300 billion this year. Really? The chubby old man blanked out slightly. Then his eyes lit up in excitement as he said, Good! Send my orders out. It would be even better if they really fail to complete their tasks. I can then cut their funding. The government can have 80% of the money I save. I'll get the other 20% as a bonus for my hard work. Wah! Marquis, this will only create trouble in the prefecture. It doesn't matter. The chubby old man was indifferent. Some people need to be pushed before they're willing to take things seriously. Those fellows are way too cunning to work without being forced. Just look at the Cultural Research Academy. Wan Tiansheng has a group of elite students that he has been hiding in the academy instead of releasing them to the military. Isn't that wasteful? In fact, he can actually produce 30 additional cultural researchers each year if he wants. But if we do things this way, the academy will be on its last legs after a few years. How can they continue training new talents then? Asked the old man. He disagreed with what the Marquis was saying. Everyone knew that Wan Tiansheng had a group of elite students in the academy. But those elites played their own roles as well. These were the people in charge of training more talents, fighting for secret grottos, performing secret research, and so on. Well, he can think of a solution himself. That is none of my business. The chubby old man nonchalantly said, I'm not the real prefect anyway. I'm just an acting prefect. Do you understand? If something bad really happens, I'll simply run to the war shrine and seek shelter there. Zia Longwu can come out and clean the mess himself. How irresponsible could this person be? The old man was speechless, and his expression was bitter. Working with Marquis Zia was much more tiring than working with Zia Longwu. At that point, the Marquis had already reached the rear court of the manor. When he saw that the old man was still following him, he asked in astonishment, Why are you still following me? Old who? Are you too free? Are you going to accompany me as I take a nap? Old rascal, time for you to piss off as well. The old man decided that he would never visit this place ever again unless he had official business here. While Zia Longwu was in seclusion, he would avoid this fellow as much as he could. In fact, Zia Longwu had always been very respectful toward him. He was in charge of Great Zia's administrative affairs, so he could be considered a big shot in the prefecture. Zia Longwu relied on him a lot. Coupled with his age, Zia Longwu had always treated him with respect. But this Marquis Zia here was basically treating him like some third-rate underling. He started leaving, but after a few steps, he stopped and said, How about Wan Tiansheng's foreign student faculty? He can do what he wants. The chubby old man continued walking toward the inner building as he spoke. For this special project, we will grant them special permissions. Those foreign students will be assigned the best accommodation. Naturally, they have to pay for that. If they're unwilling to pay, they can sleep in the toilet. Make sure to feed them well, too. Serve them with the meat of divines and devils for each meal. If they're unwilling to eat those meals, they can pay for their own meals. They can't say that I'm neglecting them if I'm offering them something as valuable as the meat of divines and devils. That is the greatest honor the human race can show our guests. Am I right? As for the price of cultivation methods, sell them to these foreign students for 10 times the usual price. Also, give them 10 times the reward for each kill of their own people. I want to see if any of them will be tempted to kill their own. Maybe they will even trick more of their own to come and get killed for the reward. Wouldn't that be a sight to see? Wan Tiansheng is too gentle. What is he afraid of? If those fellows decide to come, they are definitely coming with their own agendas. They won't leave before accomplishing their goals. Is he afraid that they will abandon the project and leave? At that point, the chubby old man had entered his room. While closing the door, he reminded, I'm not taking the blame for the funding we're cutting. Just spread some rumors that our finances are tight because we're spending all our money on the foreign student faculty. It's all Wan Tiansheng's fault. He can be the fall guy for his own project. Remember to tell Wan Tiansheng that if he's running out of money, he can get a loan from me. I'll charge him a low interest rate since I don't lack money. The old man left silently, pretending he didn't hear anything. He was afraid that he would lose his temper if he continued listening to this chubby old man. Chapter 69. Upcoming examinations one time flew by, while chaos raged in the capital. As a small city, Nanyuan was large, unaffected. But as the day of the entrance examinations drew near, the entire city started bustling with activity. Nanyuan Secondary School, meeting room. The room was filled with people. Liao Wenyan was seated to the left of the front row. His head was lowered as he silently wrote. He had not spoken once, keeping a low profile during the meeting. The person hosting the meeting wasn't the principal. Rather, it was a man of about 30 years old. With a stern expression, he said, The entrance examinations are near. Under the command of the capital, the knowledge-seeking realm, and the war shrine, the talent-fostering bureau of the capital will take charge while assisted by the various secondary schools. Any objections? The Talent Fostering Bureau was the department in charge of the yearly entrance examinations. They weren't too powerful a department, but they still had a decent level of authority in the prefectural government. In the room, the recruiters of the various academies, the officials from the capital, and the officials of the local government were present. Nanyuan Secondary School had been chosen as the venue of the meeting because this was the biggest secondary school in Nanyuan, also the main supplier of students for the various academies. The other secondary schools in the city had never provided much students to the academies. The moment the man finished speaking, someone raised his hand. When the man looked over, that person spoke. "I have a question. This year, Great Zia's policies are changing. Will the guest students be subjected to the same standards as the local students during the exams?" The man replied, "According to our records, there are 418 guest students in Nanyuan. Locally, you have 2,892 students. The Cultural Research and War Academies will take 40 guest students and 200 local students from Nanyuan. There were more than one Cultural Research Academy and War Academy in Great Zia. For War Academies, there were Great Zia War Academy, Martial Dragon War Academy, Windcatcher Academy, Marine War Academy, and so on. For Cultural Research Academies, there were Great Zia Cultural Research Academy, Nine Heavens Cultural Research Academy, Deo Seeking Cultural Research Academy, and so on. The slots that Suyu and the others had spoken of before generally referred only to the positions in the Great Zia War Academy and Great Zia Cultural Research Academy. That was because those two were the top two academies in Great Zia, with the Martial Dragon War Academy being the third best academy in the prefecture. The man continued, "That is the ratio with which the students will be accepted. All students will be judged using the same standard. All tests will be standardized as well. The academies will be recruiting from the two pools of students until the quota is filled, reducing the passing mark for the local students as necessary." Those words were rather insulting for the locals, but neither Liu and Yan or the principal said anything. There was no doubt that Nanyuan students were not as good as those from the capital or the other big cities. Thus, the various academies would reduce the passing marks for their students each year. However, it was still somewhat humiliating for the man to speak of that so frankly in such a public setting. 200 openings, split among the various academies, that wasn't a big number at all. That only left the internal affairs academies, the scientific research academies, or a completely different alternative for the rest of the students. When the man was done talking, the principal raised his hand and said, "Bureau head son, how many students are the Great Zia Cultural Research Academy, Great Zia War Academy, and the Martial Dragon War Academy, and the Martial Dragon War Academy accepting from Nanyuan this year?" The man did not reply. He looked to the side where a few individuals had been seated silently. "Researcher Huang, what's your answer?" To the right, a young man who had been busy reading a book looked up and smiled. In a calm and unhurried manner, he said, "Nothing is changing for the Great Zia Cultural Research Academy. Those above 200 marks will be accepted. Since Nanyuan students are weaker, our requirements are lower as well. Those with 180 marks and above will be conditionally accepted." The principal exhaled in relief. Fortunately, the difficulty level for the local students had not been raised this year. Great Zia War Academy, 200 marks and above will be accepted. For Nanyuan, the requirements will be lowered to 180 marks. For Martial Dragon War Academy, those above 180 marks will be accepted. For Nanyuan, the requirements will be lowered to 160 marks. The two war academies did not have much to say. After giving a short answer, they stopped talking. When the official from the Talent Fostering Bureau heard their answers, he looked at the principal and asked, "Any objections, Principal Wang? Suyu and Liu Yue have been accepted under Bai Feng's slots. According to the rules, those two will not be using Nanyuan's slots. Thus, 2 additional students can be accepted from Nanyuan." Researcher Huang looked up again and said, "Instructor Liu, the rules do allow that, but most of the students we accepted through such channels in the past have ended up eliminated. Why waste the youth and time of these students?" Lai Wenyan calmly replied, "You need to at least give them a chance. Even a young dragon needs to be given ample opportunity before it can freely soar in the sky. Suits you. But even if Su Yu and Liu Yu have been accepted under Bai Feng's slots, they still need to get through the exam. They need at least 180 marks to enter the academy. Do you have any issues with that, Instructor Liu?" "No, Su Yu and Li Yue were students that could enter the academy even if they were subjected to the same requirements as those from the capital. Thus, he wasn't worried. The young man said nothing else and returned to his reading. In truth, he wasn't reading a book. He was merely looking at the summary and list of the students that will be taking the examinations in Nenyuan. At that moment, he just happened to reach the page with Su Yu's profile. Su Yu, 5th stage source opening realm, certified in 18 languages, 21 original earned merit, with a comprehensive grade of 300 marks. Evaluated as a middle-low student. That was the information from a month ago. It had yet to be updated. The man read through the contents of the page before silently flipping to a new page with a smile on his face. He did not voice the contempt he was feeling. Since the profile was last updated a month ago, it was clear that Nanyuan was trying to use this student as their ace. But it was pointless. Nanyuan was a small city. No matter how good this student was, he would only be comparable to an average student in the capital. A student accepted by Bai Feng in advance. Let's hope there's something special about him. The young man mused inwardly. This Su Yu had yet to enter the academy, yet he had already attracted the attention of many people. In fact, before this young man left the capital, a lot of people had told him to see if there was anything special about this student. Even if this student had been accepted by Bai Feng in advance, that didn't mean that he couldn't choose a different teacher. What could Bai Feng do if the student himself wanted a different teacher? Whether Su Yu was an undiscovered genius or a random student Bai Feng had accepted on whim would be made clear soon. If Su Yu was merely a mediocre student, the researcher would simply consider this a joke Bai Feng played. And if Su Yu turned out to be a genius, many people would try stealing him from Bai Feng. When Bureau Head Sun saw that nobody had anything else to say, he opened his mouth. Then we'll end the meeting here and wait for the examinations to start. Nanyuan will be in charge of security. With so many students gathered in one place, you need to watch out for the Myriad race cult. Roger, the commander of the city guards, answered. Bureau Head Sun nodded before looking at Zia Bing. With a smile, he said, Squad leader Zia, I'll need the martial dragon guards to help with security as well. Roger, Zia Bing agreed without even looking at Bureau Head Sun. Instead, he nodded at the recruiter from the Martial Dragon War Academy seated opposite of him. The Martial Dragon Guards had a close relationship with the Martial Dragon War Academy. Many of the teachers in the Martial Dragon War Academy were retired veterans from the Martial Dragon Guards. It was natural that the two knew each other. When the teacher from the academy saw Zia Bing, he nodded as well. Before long, the meeting was adjourned. Everyone started leaving. Zia Bing intentionally moved slower. The teacher from the academy also slowed down to move behind the crowd. Old Zia, how has Nanyuan been treating you? It's okay. Apart from the attack not too long ago, life is boring most of the time. Zia Bing had a sour face. He moved on from the topic and said, Let's not talk about that. There are a few promising students here. Take note of them, especially Su Yu. He is strong, brave, and smart. He even did something big not too long ago. Liu Wenyan has been trying very hard to send him into the Cultural Research Academy without revealing his talent. Luckily, I noticed what he's doing. What did that student do? He worked with a team of Windcatcher officers to kill an infinite strength cult member. Zia Bing spoke with a soft voice. Keep this secret. If news of what he did spread, both of us will pay for it. It's against the rules to even talk about this. I'm only telling you because we're on the same side. Try to get that kid into the Martial Dragon War Academy. The teacher was astonished. He worked with the Windcatcher department? Why were they working with a source-opening cultivator in the first place? He's not only a source-opening cultivator. I believe he has formed a divine character as well. Zia Bing explained. When Bai Feng visited previously, he wrote a willpower text for that kid. I believe that the kid has already formed a complete divine character. He wouldn't have been able to utilize the power of a divine character otherwise? The teacher's eyes lit up. Are you serious? Lit up? Are you serious? It has only been 2 months since Bai Feng's visit, right? He formed a divine character from a single willpower writing session and completed the character in 2 months. I think so. But Liu Wenyan has probably taught him a bit before as well. That won't change the fact that he's a genius. The teacher was getting excited. It wasn't like he had never seen a genius before. But he had not expected to encounter one here. His excitement was understandable. Old Zia, thank you. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about this. You won't get in trouble. The more the teacher spoke, the more excited he became. We have always been trying to nurture our own cultural researchers. We even have our own cultural research course in the Martial Dragon War Academy. Unfortunately, we have never been able to train any talented cultural researchers. Most of our students are rejects of the great Zia Cultural Research Academy. This time, we'll try to steal from them a genius that had formed a divine character. A complete divine character at that. If this was the capital, the great Zia Cultural Research Academy would have learned about that student long ago. The student would have been accepted before the Martial Dragon War Academy could do anything. Of course, technically, that was also the case for Suyu. However, Bai Feng was worried that others would try to steal his student. Therefore, he had been keeping Suyu's matter a secret. When Zia Bing saw how excited the teacher was, he said, "Old C, it is important to recruit new students. But I don't want to ruin the kid's future either. I know very well how terrible our cultural researcher course is. This is what I have in mind. If that kid is really talented enough, we can be in charge of his physical cultivation. As for his willpower cultivation, will the academy be able to invite the senior researchers from the Martial Dragon Guards to teach him?" "Of course," Old Sign laughed. General Zha was furious, and he has been busy creating trouble for Principal Wan. As a response, Principal Wan threatened to cut our supply of cultural researchers. Therefore, the general said that we'll be putting more focus on nurturing cultural researchers this year. The cultural researchers in the army are pretty free right now, so most of them will be transferred to the academy. Really, Zia Bing was overjoyed. Then everything will be fine. Also, when you get in contact with that kid, try to mention his father. His father is Su Long, a veteran of the devil-subduing army that answered the recall order not long ago. Someone from the devil-subduing army. Old Shi started cursing. Then he's as good as ours. That Liu Wenyan is pushing it too far. Why is he trying to steal our people? The Martial Dragon Guards, devil-subduing army, and Great Zia army have always been considered a single family. Thus, Old C was furious to learn that the Cultural Research Academy was trying to steal one of their own. Zia Bing coughed awkwardly, but he did not say anything. Sure, that was true, but they both knew how terrible Martial Dragon War Academy's Cultural Researcher course was. It was only natural that Suyu would try to get into the Cultural Research Academy. This fellow was merely angry because he wanted to keep the kid in their fold. I need to return to my post. You can ignore all the other students, but not this student. Since he's able to accomplish this much at a place like Nenyuan, I believe he is as good as those 9th stage source opening students from the capital. He might be even better. Oh, I forgot to mention that he's already an 8th stage source opening cultivator. Old C's eyes lit up as he said, "Why the fuck is he practicing willpower cultivation? He should just focus on physical cultivation. He should just focus on physical cultivation. Those cultural researchers might not necessarily be stronger than us warriors at the latter stages. Just do what you think is right." Zia Bing still had work to do, so he left after finishing his words. Outside the meeting room, Liu Wenyan looked behind him to see the two individuals that were talking softly to each other. He merely sneered indifferently. What were they thinking? That kid would never enter the Martial Dragon War Academy. After all, Instructor Liu had personally taught that kid for so many years. If that kid really ended up joining the Martial Dragon War Academy, he would have to. What could he do? Tell that kid to compensate him for the lightning source blade. Would that kid be able to afford it? Su family's residence. Su Yu had been staying home for many days. It had been about 10 days, and he had been activating the book in his head once per day to cultivate his acupoints, and used over 10 drops of blood essence in the process. The 9th acupoint, known as the 100 openings, was shining brightly. Above his head, source chi started converging. That was the sign that his 9th acupoint was on the verge of being opened. He was going to reach his goal soon. It had been less than half a month since his last breakthrough, and he was going to open his 9th acupoint. That was a terrifying speed. Naturally, he had paid a high price for it. However, over 10 drops of blood essence was really nothing compared to his progress. Chapter 70. Upcoming examinations, too. After a while, Chen Hao finally recovered from his joy and recalled why he was here. He said, "The exam schedule is out. It's similar to the schedule last year. Do you want to see it? Show me." Su Yu accepted the schedule brought by Chen Hao and took a look at it before nodding. The schedule was similar to the previous year's schedule. The War Academy examination would be held on the morning of the 25th. The cultural research examination would be held on the afternoon of the same day. The schedule had been similar in the past years. Those below the third stage source opening realm would receive 10 marks per stage. They needed to have their cultivation confirmed during the examination. From the fourth to the sixth stage, one would receive 30 marks per stage. Similarly, one needed to have it verified during the examination. From the seventh to the ninth stage, one would receive 50 marks per stage. One would also receive 10 marks per certified language. That would also be tested during the examination. Additionally, one would receive 10 marks per merit point earned through accomplishments unrelated to language mastery. I have 220 marks for my 8th stage source opening cultivation, 10 marks for each of my 20 languages, for a total of 200 marks. Also, my formed divine characters can give me between 100 to 300 marks as well. While reading through the list, Suyu noticed a sentence written in a font so small that he almost missed it. They had probably not expected any student from Nenyuan to obtain bonus marks through divine characters, so they did not bother using a larger font for that sentence. In that case, I will have no less than 620 marks. Suyu smiled. According to Nanyuan's past history, any student with 200 marks and above could basically enter any academy they wished. Naturally, the marking system for the cultural research and war academies were different, but the differences weren't big. The War Academy had a restriction on the bonus marks a student could get from certified languages, capping the bonus at only 100 marks. Similarly, the Cultural Researcher Academy had a requirement that each student must be certified for no less than 8 languages. Those requirements were put in place for preventing students from joining an unsuitable academy and ruining their own future. It would basically be a waste of talent if that happened. Well, that's unrelated to me. I meet the requirements of both sides. Suyu did not care. The examinations would not change the fact that he would be able to join an academy. He only cared about the rewards for placing first. As for Chen Hao, he had 90 marks from his cultivation of 5th stage source opening realm, 30 marks from the 3 compulsory languages, and the bonus 30 marks from the killed cult member. In total, he had 150 marks. Since he had received bonus marks from the cult member, the 3 original earned merit points he received from the same kill would not be taken into consideration when calculating his overall score. Additionally, the War Academy examination also provided other tests a student could take for additional marks. Most students would have no trouble getting extra 30 marks from the tests. All in all, Chen Hao would have at least 180 marks. The Great Zia War Academy will be hard to enter, but the other war academies won't be that hard for him. Chen Hao had never intended to join the Great Zia War Academy anyway. There were plenty of war academies around. Those with at least 150 marks could practically enter any war academy except the Great Zia War Academy and Martial Dragon War. Thus, there wasn't much pressure on Chen Hao. He only needed to pass the examination, and he would be accepted by a war academy. In fact, students at the 4th or 5th stage would not have much trouble joining a regular war academy, but those at the 3rd stage, source opening realm, would find it hard to enter one unless they could demonstrate some exceptional talent. Historically, most of the students from Nenyuan that had been able to join a war academy were at the 4th stage source opening realm and above. While eating, Suyu continued reading. Eventually, his gaze landed on the section indicating the reward for placing first. Previously, Nenyuan had promised a reward of 3 drops of source chi liquid for the student placing first in the War Academy examination. As for the Cultural Research Academy examination, one would be rewarded a great strength original text. Those were the rewards provided by the city itself. As for the rewards provided by the academies, they weren't listed. He wondered if there were even any. He had heard that those rewards could only be claimed after entering an academy. Additionally, those placing first will also be given 10 merit points. This will also be added onto one's original earned merit. When Suyu saw that, his eyes lit up. That was the standard reward that would be given every year. So if he could place first in both examinations, wouldn't he earn 20 merit points? Was he going to get rich? Bang, bang, bang. While Suyu and Chen Hao were conversing, someone knocked on the door. Who is it? Is student Suyu here? Curious, Suyu stood up and walked to the door. He did not forget to take a saber with him. He stopped to the side of the door instead of directly behind the door and asked, "Who is this?" Not far away. Chen Hao was dumbstruck to see Su Yu answer his door with a saber. "Was this necessary? A comrade in arms of your father." Outside the door, old Shile laughed. "You're quite careful, little fellow. I'm a sky-soar cultivator. Your saber won't do anything to me." Feeling awkward, Su Yu sank into silence, since the other party could sense what he did. Even if that person wasn't a sky-soar cultivator, that person would still be much stronger than him. After putting his saber down, he opened the door. 2 people were standing outside. Standing at the front was Old C. The second person looked familiar. When he focused, he finally recognized that person and hurriedly greeted Uncle Qian. The man called Uncle Qian smiled and nodded. It has been almost a year since we last met. Please come in, Uncle Qian." Su Yu hastily invited them in. This was his father's friend. However, he did not have much contact with this person before. Uncle Qian was a comrade in arms of his father, but they weren't actually the soldiers of the same batch. Nevertheless, they were both fellow veterans of the devil-subduing army. Su Yu did not remember exactly what Uncle Qian did in Nenyuan. All he knew was that this Uncle Qian was serving as a minor official in some government agency in the city. Old C entered the house and laughed heartily. "Good vigilance, lad. You act the same as us retired soldiers. Truly worthy of being a son of a soldier. Your father must have taught you well. You're making all of us from the military proud." Su Yu merely smiled and said nothing about the praise. He only looked at Uncle Qian doubtfully, wondering who the other person was. Uncle Qian coughed slightly and introduced, This is Sir Shui from the Martial Dragon Guards." Old Shi then walked around the house like it was his own house, before he looked at Chen Hao and laughed. "This is your friend, Chen Hao? Chen Hao?" Chen Hao was stunned. He had no idea who this person was, but since this was someone from the Martial Dragon Guards, he asked in excitement, "I'm Chen Hao. Uncle, you're from the Martial Dragon Guards?" "Yeah. I used to be a member of the devil-subduing army as well. Subsequently, I was transferred to the Martial Dragon Guards. However, both armies are the same as one family." Old C laughed heartily. He was not behaving like a strict military man at all. "Su Yu, aren't you going to invite us to sit?" Only then did Su Yu recover from his shock. He hurriedly invited the two to sit before giving Chen Hao a kick. "Go make some tea. You don't have any tea here." Su Yu cursed inwardly. Couldn't Chen Hao pretend for a bit and just serve them some plain water? Old Soi smiled. "It's fine. I don't need any tea." He then beckoned at Su Yu and said, "Come sit down. This is your home, so don't act like a stranger. Since your dad is in the military, we're basically family." Su Yu sat down, still confused as to what was going on. His father wasn't around, so why were these people visiting? It didn't seem likely that these people would be here just to visit him. "Oh, you're reading the enrollment schedule and rules?" When Old C noticed the schedule on the table, he smiled. "So which academy are you two planning to join? Since we're all military, are you planning to join the Martial Dragon War Academy? That's understandable, I guess. As one of our own, if you join the Martial Dragon War Academy, we can easily help you out if you encounter any trouble." Chen Hao awkwardly said, "I might not be able to pass the exam for Martial Dragon War Academy." "Says who?" Old Sin smiled. "The Martial Dragon War Academy is naturally difficult for outsiders. But we're family. Things will be easier for you. Little Chen, you have 30 bonus marks, right? You're also a 5th stage source opening realm. With that, you can easily join the Martial Dragon War Academy. A word from me will be enough to get you in." Chen Hao was dumbstruck. So had he been accepted? What was going on? Was this uncle here to mess with him? At that point, Su Yu finally understood something. He did not know what to feel as he coughed and said, "Uncle Ashi, you're from the Martial Dragon War Academy." "Oh, you know that as well." Old Zai smiled. "Yes, I'm now an instructor at the Martial Dragon War Academy. I am one of the proctors for the exam this year as well. Therefore, if I want you to enter the academy, you'll be accepted." Chen Hao really wanted to say that his father wasn't from the devil-subduing army. Su Yu did not give him a chance to speak. With a smile, Su Yu said, Uncle Ashi, I'll thank you on behalf of Chen Hao then. He looked at Chen Hao and said, Hao, if you can't enter the Great Zia War Academy, you can just enter the Martial Dragon War Academy. Uncle Joaim knows that place well, so he can take care of you there. Old Scene smiled without saying anything. Interesting kid, he's even using my words against me. However, with Chen Hao's current marks, he would probably be able to get into the Martial Dragon War Academy even without any special treatment. Old Sai did not say anything. He waited until Su Yu was finished before saying, Are you two not going together? If you go together, you can look after each other in the academy. You also won't feel so lonely at an unfamiliar place with each other there. That's it for today's video. The next part arrives tomorrow. Subscribe so you don't miss it.